Hello, this is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and I'm back with another interesting topic in Vedic astrology today. And today we'll be talking about relationships once again. And as we all know that there are certain relationships which are made by choice, like a relationship between spouses, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, and between friends. But then there are certain relationships which are coming to us by default, like we get born and we don't have the ability to choose our own parents. They just come to us, our children, our cousins, our family members. So it is very important to know and understand how to build strong relationships, because we deal with these relationships on a day-to-day basis. So today we'll be talking about the planet Venus and how to form great relationships with the Venus dominated people. So first we have to understand that what are the characteristics of the planet Venus. Okay, and once we understand the characteristics of the planet Venus, then we can go ahead and make good relationships with them. Now, there are people who come to our lives and whose birth charts we're not aware of. So how do we know that whether they're Venus dominated or Mars dominated or any other planet dominated? Because that's very critical for us to know so that we can deal with them accordingly. Just to give you an example, people who are dominated by Mars, they're attracted towards, wars and, historical wars and all kinds of weapons and all kinds of adventurous things and, so on and so forth. And people who are dominated by, say, for example, Moon, they're people who are not very ambitious like Mars. They're easygoing, they're happy people, they're not angry as Mars people are. They like to consider everybody as their friend, try to make them happy. They love poetry. So obviously you cannot deal with a Moon dominated person as a Mars, or you cannot go and talk about adventure and ambition and weapons and wars with a Moon dominant. He's gonna get bored. He's not gonna enjoy the conversation. On the contrary, if you go to a Mars person and you keep talking about poetry and goodness and happiness and compassion and working for the society, he's gonna say, what are you talking about? Because he wants to consume or utilize most of his time towards his ambitions, reaching his goals, his career objectives, regardless of whether he's in the army or not. Because on a day-to-day basis also he's going to behave like a Mars. So it's very important for us to go ahead and understand what planet this person is dominated or influenced by, rather, so that you can deal with him accordingly. You can come across with that person accordingly. So today we'll be talking about people who are dominated or influenced by the planet Venus, and how do we deal with them. Now first we have to understand, if we do not have the birth chart, we have to understand how he is dominated or influenced. And a person can be influenced in several ways, through his lagna, if we have the birth chart, of course. The lord of the lagna, the planets placed in the lagna, the aspects on the lagna, and similarly with the moon sign, whether his moon sign is influenced by placement, conjunction, aspect, any other way, the Rashi which has a placement of moon in it, or even through the nakshatras, where the lord of the nakshatra where moon is placed, or even the lord of the pada, as we know that nakshatras are 4 padas, and then the influences on them through aspects, conjunctions, so on and so forth. So there are several ways, and there is no cut and dry black and white way to figure out if you're reading a chart. You have to see which is the dominating factor. Okay, and that's going to come to you with a lot of practice, and once you get it, it'll be easy for you. Now coming to the difficult part is people's whose birth chart is not known by you or known to you. How do you determine what planet he is influenced by? And then how do you, first you have to understand without knowing his birth chart. So you have to understand the characteristics of the planet. If those characteristics of the planet are coming out very strongly in him, then you can kind of come to a conclusion or a rough guesstimation or some kind of a estimation or guess that yes, this person, his likes, dislikes, the way he looks, the way he comes across, the way he deals with people, honest, dishonest, then you'll be able to figure out, okay, well, this person is influenced by this planet, so I'm going to deal with him accordingly. And then of course, once the dealing is proper, then the relationship is strong and lasting. So today we'll be talking in specific terms about the planet Venus and people who are dominated or influenced by the planet Venus. So what are the characteristics of Venus? Venus, as per the ancient scriptures, and by the way, I keep repeating that my videos are all a direct reference from the ancient scriptures. They are not a figment of imagination or some kind of a fiction of any modern day astrologer. So the scriptures describe very clearly that Venus has black curled hair. His hair is black. Okay, like we discussed about the planet Jupiter, refer to my earlier video, his hair are brownish. Okay, but here Venus, very clearly the scriptures say that he has black hair and they are curly hair. Okay, and his complexion is dark brown. Okay, he doesn't have a hue of Mercury, like a greenish hue or a yellowish hue like that of a Jupiter. His hue or his complexion is dark brownish. It doesn't mean that every Venus dominated person is going to be dark brown in color, or his skin color is going to be dark brown. No, he'll have a hue of a dark brown. Okay, even if he's fair, you'll see that hue. And like I said, once you start practicing and observing people and noticing people very carefully, you'll understand what I'm talking about. What is a hue and how does it come. But generally in the ancient scriptures, he's been described as a dark brownish person with curly hair. Okay, and very distinctive feature is that he's very handsome. Okay, very, very handsome, because Venus is about beauty. Okay, it's about being handsome. And also, as far as his limbs go, they're very symmetrical. So you'll see some people, they have limbs which are not symmetrical. Sometimes you'll see their arms a little thicker than what it should be, and with a belly, or sometimes their shoulders may be narrow as compared to the whole body, or the shoulders may be too broad. No, here very symmetrical body, gonna have the limbs, especially, not just the body, the limbs, the hands and the legs, very, very symmetrical and beautiful. Okay, the limbs and the body parts have been described as beautiful. Okay, you look at a person and look at the limbs, you'll know, okay. And then once you start to understand these characteristics about different planets, then you'll go, one step ahead and start to observe a little more carefully. So he's been described as a person with dark hair, dark black hair, which are curly. He's got a dark brownish hue, and he's very handsome with beautiful limbs who are very, very symmetrical. Okay, and he has soft eyes. Okay, his eyes are described as soft. Okay, and the disposition has been described as amorous, and kind of a romantic disposition as well. That's been described, and of course Venus is the planet of love, so what more can you expect? And as far as the element goes, the composition goes, he is a mix of Vata and Kapha. Okay, and people are not familiar with these three elements. or three doshas rather, which come to us. Actually, they're not doshas, but they get doshas. When they become doshas, then they give all kinds of problems in the body. So please refer to my earlier video on these three basic elements which influence our bodies, which are the kapha, the vata, and the pitta. Kapha is associated with water, so it's a water element. Vata is associated with vayu, or wind or air, and then pitta is associated with the fire element. Okay, so I'm not going to get detailed into those three different elements which influence our bodies and ourselves. But Venus has been described as a mix of vata, which is the wind or the air, and kapha, which is the water element. Okay, not like moon, which has been very clearly described as the water element, or Mars, which has been described as the fire element. Here it's a mix of air and water. Okay, and the guna he has been endowed with is a rajas guna. Venus is very directly associated with the rajas guna. Now, once again, people who are not familiar with what a guna is, so there are three types of gunas. One is a sattva guna, the other is a rajas guna, the third is a tamas guna. So sattva is about purity in a nutshell, rajas is about creativity, and tamas is about complete darkness. And if you want to know more in detail about what a sattva guna is, what a rajas guna is, and what a tamas guna is, please refer to my earlier videos. So Venus is very rajas in quality, and rajas is about creativity and also enjoyment as well. So because Venus believes in enjoyment and pleasures and beautiful things and creating beautiful things, so Venus is all about that guna. Okay, and more about passion rather. So rajas has other qualities, but here the rajas quality of Venus is more about passion and enjoyments and sexual pleasures, and not just necessarily sex, but attraction towards the opposite sex. Okay, not necessarily, I'm not talking about the physical part of it, but I'm just saying that they'll have a quality of getting attracted by the opposite sex instantly. Okay, and then enjoying the other sex's company, so as to say, a Venus dominated person, say for example if he's a man, then he's going to enjoy the company of women. Or if she's a woman who has an influence of Venus, she's going to enjoy the company of men. Okay, so that's what their quality is, like that. But they're very graceful, very, very graceful people. Okay, and have all kinds of vigor and vitality in them, because as we know, the ancient scriptures also describe that Venus is Vajra, it's strong, it's a planet of vitality. It's also associated with Shukra, okay, which is, or has been described as Shukra rather, but then Shukra again is about Ojas, Tejas, all these comes with a lot of vigor and vitality, and that's what Venus gives a Venus dominated or a Venus influenced person. Okay, and he excels in pretty much what he does generally. So he is not a loser in life. If he's a student, he'll do good in studies. If he's in a job, he'll do good in job. If he's in business, he'll do business. So and I'm talking about the positive influence of Venus, and of course we're not talking about the negative influence of Venus, and it can actually create havoc in somebody's life. But we're talking about the positive influence of Venus, and we're talking about people who are positively influenced by Venus. And how can you know about them without knowing their birth charts and then deal with them accordingly? Okay, so these were the qualities of Venus. So the other qualities is, well, not qualities rather, but the other information which is coming from the scriptures about Venus is that he excels in his exaltation sign. So we need to know this, because once we have a hold of his birth chart, in case we have a hold of his birth chart, his or her birth chart, then of course we know that if the planet Venus is exalted, okay, he is very strong. So you'll instantly know that, he'll have those Venus-like qualities, and I'm going to deal with him accordingly. I'm not going to deal with him like Mars, or I'm not going to deal with him like Jupiter and discuss ancient scriptures and the Vedas with him. Okay, so Venus gets very strong in his exaltation sign. And also why we need to know this is because in the Gochara, or transit as it's called in Sanskrit, there are planets transiting all the time, and if Venus is in exaltation, the person will come out very strongly. If he already has a positive influence of Venus, then he's going to come out very, very strongly during those transits. So then you deal with him accordingly. Talk to him about pleasures, movies, enjoyment, passion, and you have an instant great relationship with him or her. Okay, Venus is also very strong in his if it's a Vargottama, meaning which it's in his Varga, in the D9 chart or the Navamsha chart, if he stays in the same zodiac sign as what it is in the main Rashi chart or the main birth chart, then he's very strong. Okay, in his weekday also he is strong. Friday is ruled by Venus, he is strong, or he's very strong in the middle of the sign, when it's transiting, if it's around 15 degrees or so, he's very strong. And also the ancient scriptures describe that Venus is strong in the 6th house from Lagna, the 12th house from Lagna, the 3rd house from Lagna, and the 4th house from Lagna. And there's a slight contradiction here. Some astrologers believe that Venus may not be that strong in the 6th house. Some astrologers rather say that it gets destroyed in the 6th house. But there are certain scriptures, and I'm referring to those scriptures, that they have described, although like I said, some people may not agree, but they have described that Venus gets strong in the 6th house and the 12th house. Why the 12th house? Because that's the natural sign of Pisces, and Venus gets exalted there. So look out for those combinations while the planets are transiting, or even if you have a whole of that person's birth chart. Okay, and see how strong Venus is placed. All right, 4th house also is a place where Venus can get extremely strong. Okay, also it is believed that Venus gets strong in the afternoon. So during his weekdays, Fridays is strong, and even more stronger in the afternoons. And in case Venus is conjunct with Moon, it gets very strong. Also Venus gets strong in its retrograde motion, and some scriptures even say that it gets strong when he is ahead of the planet's sun. Okay, so these are little pieces of information. If you have the birth chart already of the person, this piece of information is going to be very, very useful for you. If you do not have the birth chart of that person, then of course you can use this information while you see the transits happening in the zodiac. Then you can make some kind of a determination based on whether you've already concluded or inferred that the person is influenced by Venus, and then hopefully you can go ahead and deal with that person accordingly and make a very, very strong, healthy, and a long-lasting relationship with that person. So hopefully you enjoyed this video on how to deal with Venus-dominated people or Venus-influenced people. And in the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel and check out my website. There is a link below, and I will see you with an interesting topic on Vedic astrology very soon. Goodbye.